This is the I'm Possible Project show, where we interview real people who have achieved incredible feats in the face of overwhelming odds, showing that impossible is just a state of mind and that anything is possible. I'm your host, Joshua Rivedal. Today, in episode 41, The Nature of Mental Health, I talk to Adam McNeill. Let's jump right in. I'm with Adam McNeill, and Adam is the executive director of the Forrest Warren Mental Wellness Association in Warren, Pennsylvania. It's kind of in the Erie region. We got a chance to meet kind of over the phone via email a couple months ago. Adam's a cool dude. This is the worst intro ever. So I'll let him talk in a minute, and then you'll get his bio in the show notes and on our website. But Adam, man, it's really good to be chatting with you, man. I'm glad you're on this interview today.
Yeah, when you asked me, and invited me on, I was pretty excited. I was like, hey, nice. I know you're doing really good things out there. So
thanks, man. Appreciate that. So, dude, man, I gave you like a very, very brief intro, but you're more than the executive director of the Forrest Warren Mental Wellness Association. We got a chance to talk, and you have a very colored and interesting background. Would you give us a little background on your life, where you've been, where you're going, the Adam McNeill experience, please and thank you?
Sure. I was an 80s baby, 1980. So I grew up in a little small town in the Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania, which is, about 500,000 acres. So that was our playground as a kid. We bounced around there a lot, and that sort of led me to what I did after college. And I worked in the timber industry and traveled around the United States, subcontracting and contracting for the government. The timber market struggled there in that 2007 range. And so I fell back on what I went to college for, and that was basically social work. I've been doing it since 2008, I guess. Now it's really evolved from social work into, originally I was working in group homes with children and running residential facilities, bouncing around between being an on-call supervisor, which is 24 hours a day, and no sleep, dealing with crisis with individuals. And then I was a foster care supervisor for probably about 5 years, and found parents, and parents found me that, were willing to take children in that didn't have homes. And I was pulling children from, all over Pennsylvania really, and trying to find them appropriate homes that we had available. So that was pretty neat. Basically there are an endless amount of kids out there that really need homes, and it's difficult to find them anymore. The kids that we have that are struggling with, mental health illnesses and other developmental disabilities and things they can be really difficult. And it's a scary thing to a lot of people to bring them into their homes. So there's some people out there that are willing to do it though. After foster care, I affiliated with another part of the company. I work for a company called Journey Health Systems, and Journey's sort of an umbrella that there's 5 different companies that have affiliated underneath them. And, times are tough in the mental health world in the United States. So it's really nice to have groups, of people that have different skills all coming together under different companies to affiliate and create an organization that is really powerful and can put all their resources together and, doesn't really have to outsource anything to other agencies. So, and I think another thing that really does is that it teaches everybody how to collaborate really well. So my role in this new company, in the Forrest Warren Mental Wellness Association, is really I go through the community and I get to meet people from all walks of life, and stakeholders and commissioners to, elected people, all the service providers, the school districts, the children, the families. And we're just trying to create this big, giant collaborative to have everybody at the table at all times. What are our needs? How do we fill them? And how do we, help every single family and every single child that's struggling? I heard a sort of a staggering statistic the other day that Warren County per capita has more homeless youth than Erie County. Warren County's small and has 1 school district in it. Erie County is a much larger. I'm not sure exactly what the population is, but it's certainly a city and it's widespread suburbs. And We are tiny, so it was quite the statistic to hear. Big initiative we're doing right now is the trauma-informed care initiative. So we're really trying to teach every single person in the community what trauma is, how it affects your life, how it affects your people in your family, where to go to get help, all the things that it entails as far as mental health, physical health. For anybody listening, the ACEs study, that's ACE, the ACEs study is out there. It's been around since the 90s, but what it does is it's a personal kind of interview for yourself to look at what you've gone through your whole life, and it sort of calculates for you where you stand on a trauma scale and how that will affect you through the rest of your life. Pretty amazing, actually, on what trauma has done to our population, what it's currently doing, and now really what we're doing to make everyone aware to try to change the tide, because it's like you're 300 times as likely to have heart disease if you've had, multiple traumas in your life. You know what I mean? Which people don't think of your mental health affecting your physical health on a physiological scale, but it really does. Biologically, neurologically. I mean, it's your brain controls your body, so there's a lot of really neat work going on out there. I don't know if I can reference anybody or not, but Dr. Bruce Perry's neurosequential work has been a pretty good foundation for a lot of the work that we're doing. And then we're working with a company called Lakeside, and they have a neurologic initiative that we just introduced into our school district. And it's quite an amazing idea, and it's an idea that can change the culture of your community. If you teach every one of your teachers and paraprofessionals and administration individuals in your schools how to recognize trauma and how to, build a community or, even a culture around that, you can change children's lives, which could change their adult life, to a great extent. So that's the big stuff we're working on right now. It's pretty fun.
Really nice. The trauma-informed care piece is so huge. I recently got a little, I don't know if it's a certificate in community counseling from a center out here in Los Angeles, the Southern California Counseling Center. And so, one of the modules, several of the modules weaved in and out of the trauma piece, and I've done mandated reporter training too, and just so that touches on some of that as well. But man, trauma just wreaks havoc. Just bouncing back from that. I mean, in my own life, a homicide, a suicide, my own crisis, cancer, different deaths, and took the ACEs test and was like, wow, prime candidate for depression, addiction, fill in the blank. And it's having that awareness and that knowledge, is great. And I'm glad that, the kids are starting to get it in the community as well, because then you can come back from that. You know how to treat, how to approach with empathy. Kid has a behavioral issue. The kid's not just a bad seed or fill in the blank with your favorite expletive. Kid needs help. There's a reason why kid is falling asleep in class. There's a reason why kid has outbursts. It's not because he's a bad seed or she's a bad seed. They need lots of extra help because of what they've seen in their lives. So I'm just so appreciative that you're pushing for that in the county. I want to go backwards for a second, actually. I want to go back to growing up, college, timber, social work. It's such an interesting progression. I kind of get the timber piece, but how does one go from a forest to hundreds of acres of forest, but I'm going to be a social worker, maybe the broad strokes or whatever you want to fill in the blanks. I mean, that's just such a curious progression. I think it's interesting. How does that happen, dude?
Well, I mean, our recreation was getting out in the woods and finding and making our own fun. We didn't really have a whole lot going on. I grew up in a town with less than 5,000 people in it. It's probably more like 2, realistically. And so it was kind of funny, actually. A bunch of my friends, my last name is McNeill. So Mick, pretty much anything you can put after it was my nickname. So I never really had one nickname. I just have a bunch. And one of my nicknames was McCounselor when I was a kid. So, my friends would come talk to me. I'd always lend an ear. And so when it was time to go to college, I had pretty good grades, but I really wasn't interested in school anymore after like 8th or ninth grade. I was, kind of getting in trouble, and I got into a lot of different stuff, and not a lot with the law, but a little. And it got to that point where it was like time to go to college, and I went from straight A's to, getting some B's and C's because I would skip school and do dumb stuff. And when I chose to go to a college, I hadn't had enough of everything. So I went from northwestern Pennsylvania to to southeastern Pennsylvania. So I basically moved to Philadelphia from up by Erie, and I got as far away as I could. And when I got down there, I thought I was like, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be a physical therapist, or, physician's assistant, or a teacher. And I didn't really know. And then once I got into school, I realized, all right, maybe I drink a little bit too much to do some of that work. But I never got bad grades. Right from my first semester on, I did well. But what I liked was the sociology, psychology, race, class, gender, anthropology, just exposure to culture, physical culture, everything. I just liked, that's what I liked. So I told myself, and I remember I even said it out loud. I was like, I'm not going to college to make money. I'm going to college to learn about what I like. That's kind of how it evolved. I left there. I couldn't make any money in what I liked. You know what I mean? So I had to do what I knew. So I knew how to work in the woods to a certain extent. And I knew some of things about timber, and I hit the West Coast, or not so far as the West Coast, but I guess first place I moved to was Cloudcroft, New Mexico, which was the Lincoln National Forest, just south of Cloudcroft, is on the mountain before the tunnel, or what was it called? Anyway, we started in there, and then that's kind of where it evolved for me, and it went all the way up through Colorado, Montana, Idaho, South Dakota, Florida, Georgia, all over the place. At some points, I would live in my tent for 4 months a year.
That's pretty wild, man. What was that like?
It came to a point, I think, when by the time I was done after 5 years, that I had social anxiety so bad that I would go into populated places, and it was just strange for me. It was really strange. And that wasn't my nature. I was always like pretty social, and it's weird how I kind of reverted back and then got into this kind of work and had to get back to who I really was from the beginning. But yeah, when you take yourself out of society for years, it's a weird little twist I'm getting used to.
I bet. So seeing that industry kind of dwindle and kind of peter out, what was the process between that and then jumping back into the social work side of things? Is that did you take it hard? Was it difficult? Like, was it an easy transition? Like, how did that go?
Financially, it wasn't. I mean, I took a really hard hit, and started out as a temp employee working in a group home for teenage boys, making $9.62 an hour, with a degree. Just take what you could get. I had bills to pay. But I realized pretty quick, like, okay, I'm old enough now at 27, 28 years old to be able to mentor youth. You know what I mean? When I was out of college, I wasn't ready to do that. I was still, working out who I was and figuring, you know what I mean? That's like, maybe some people come out of college better developed, but I wasn't. I was, 22 years old and still figuring things out. So I surely wasn't ready to take 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids at the oldest ages and teach them about life, and be a good role model for them. So no, the transition wasn't too hard at that point. It was, first of all, it was financially driven, but then once I started doing it, I was like, oh, this is great. I mean, I'm getting to go outdoors with these kids, and we're doing activities, and I was an okay role model by that point. I wasn't a hypocrite, and I was able to, give them skills that they needed, mostly social skills. Those are some of the biggest hindrances for people with mental health issues, is just how to be social and appropriate. It all evolved from there, though, into, I'm much more on the business side now, but not just the business side, but I get to reach out and I get to interact with a ton of people. That's probably the the most enjoyable part of it.
That's rad, man. That's really cool. Do you find that I don't even know the answer to this? I mean, I don't know any of the answers to the questions I asked, but like, do you find that like, I just want to see if I can make a connection, but this might be total crap. Do you ever find that like anything from your timber world, like when you were doing all that stuff, does that inform at all what you do now? Is there any sort of congruency or connection that you can create in your head, or that you kind of see as very apparent, or none at all?
I mean, like symbiotically, I would say that
something like that.
For me, nature, and everybody has their, their own belief systems. I studied theology in school in my anthropological world, studied all religions of the world. My religion is nature. If I need to reach out, I need to find answers, I need to be outside. And that's just the way that I've always worked. So this type of work is very much a spiritual based. We don't, it's not on the God side, or pushing any religion or pushing Mother Nature or anything like that. But I think I probably tie in most by being home again, and like being in the area where I grew up, and I really connect with the natural resources here. And I'm trying to evolve what I do to have a part, not a part, but for what I do in the future, I would really like for nature to be a part of my mental wellness association. So right now I'm working on a few different projects. One, a woman approach from the National Wild Turkey Federation is in the process right now where she'd like to start like a grief group. And I got invited from some other people. They heard of what she was doing. They said, hey, give Adam a call. And it's like an outdoors grief group. Her husband committed suicide, and she was left with her 2 little boys. And what she's found to be the most beneficial thing is to just spend time outside, outdoors with them, take them hunting, eat what they, harvest, garden, grow their food, and really connect with the earth. So that's sort of that's my spiritual side. I don't get to do a whole lot of that at work every day, but that's where I connect with mental wellness for me and nature. So I told you a little bit too, I'd like to kind of start a little, backcountry club for doing some downhill skiing. I'm starting a little business right now for members of our community to do lawn care and snow removal. And we've got a greenhouse that we're going to get up and going. And we're going to do arts in our storefront, as well as we're going to create probably enough jobs. I don't know, half a dozen anyway, jobs for some people to look into gardening and lawn care. We have pretty much a large supply. I won't say an endless supply, but a large supply of like architecturally salvaged materials from a nonprofit agency that remodels homes in the county, and they give like housing to people in need. Not necessarily lower income housing, but housing for people with Social Security, all kinds of different transitional housing for people coming in and out of jail, all kinds of different stuff. They actually have a homeless shelter. So that's a little part of the little business I'm building. I would like to see an entire like family youth group connected that was an outdoors of some kind around here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there's some really great people in these little small town communities. I mean, Warren has a river running through it that's controlled by the Kinzua Dam that holds back the Allegheny Reservoir. And so there's like an endless supply of water coming off the dam. There's always kayaking and fishing, and there's as much bird watching and animal observation as you'd want to do. So we have a pretty wide open gate as to what could occur. I've been here for 6 months, so I don't have catch me again in a few years and see where I'm at. I don't know yet.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like things are well on their way. I love the nature piece. Don't get out enough into it, being in LA these days, but we actually live next to like maybe, I don't know, a park that's maybe like 2 or 3 acres, which isn't quite 100, but that's like paradise when, there's like not too many, there's a lot of cement around, So that's pretty cool. I can see that. I definitely feel a lot more spiritual in a very, a nature setting. I don't know if I've divulged this on the podcast, and I've been instructed by my wife not to share this story, but it's a little like weirdly embarrassing, but I'll say it anyway. I was in Australia and I was on my own. This is before I was with my wife, but this was back, I think, in early 2015, and I'd gone to this like rainforest in the mountains outside of Sydney called, I believe it's called the Blue Mountains, but I'm blanking on it right now.
I've been in the Blues.
Yeah,
I went to college.
What did you think?
I went to college in Australia.
Ah, that's right. Yeah.
For a year, yeah. Dude, it was amazing. I didn't mean to cut your story off. But I did some big rappelling and stuff out there. It was fun.
Nice, man. Nice. I can see that. No, just the long story short was I was wandering around this like nature reserve / park / like touristy thing, but it was there was, barely a piece of cement in sight. And I just see this big, just gigantic tree that it looks like it's been around for at least a couple hundred years, if not close to 1,000. I just kind of went up to it and hugged it and said, thank you. And I've never done that again. And I've never done it before that. So it's really kind of a creepy, kind of sweet, weird, awkward story. But I just felt so overwhelmed with, like, I don't know, spirituality or whatever. And I just had to go hug a tree. And I was like, I kind of know what tree huggers are feeling, I think, now. So that's my awkward story for the day, everyone. So
I would beg to guess that nobody thought that was weird. I mean, you can hug a tree and feel completely comfortable. Even if you're a logger, they would relate to you, because a logger they hug trees every day. You got to hug them to measure them before you cut them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks, brother, for your sacrifice. I'm going to cut you down now. I may have asked it out on a date, but no, I'm kidding. Super awkward. But no, man, I want to ask you, I want to jump in back to your work a little bit more. I like to kind of uncover the nitty gritty. Maybe there isn't a whole lot, but over the past, I don't know, I guess it's been around 8 years. Like, what's like one of the most difficult pieces about, like, just the maybe heartbreaking, tear driven, just something that you've gone through with your work, helping people, foster care system, what have you? Like, what's been one of the most difficult? But the twist on that is, how has it made your life better, and how has it informed, I guess, the best Adam possible? So it's kind of a complex question, but does that make sense? Yeah,
and you might have to regroup me so I don't get too tangential on, talking. But I think the biggest obstacle really is when you see children whose families have just basically given up on them before they even had a chance to become a person. And, even in our small little niche of rural America, you see families that just say, I don't want my child anymore, and they give them away. Typically it's, to a children and youth organization, and, which is governmental. And then they're stuck with trying to find, they start with looking for kin and the kinship programs and anybody in a family that can take them. But you have those children that slide through the gaps, and they never really did anything wrong because their home structure was a disaster, and that's probably why they didn't behave well initially. And then the parents give up on them, and then they become institutionalized, and then they spend years hoping to find a family, and it doesn't always happen, or hoping that somebody from their family will take them, and it doesn't always happen. Sometimes they don't have any. And as those children grow up, I mean, I know lots of them now that I knew before they were a teenager, and now they're, out of school. And I actually just was working with one today that I hadn't seen in a lot of years. And you just hope that you can give them enough tools and enough knowledge and enough support systems that they can at least feel somewhat of a family, environment. And I think that what I gain most out of all of that is that you have to take care of yourself mentally, physically. That's physical shape, but you really need to take care of yourself mentally before you can help other people. It's all about, self-regulating and learning who you are before you can. And, I could probably tie that back into, when I left working in the woods, I really knew who I was. I mean, I had spent so much time alone and hiked so many mountains and pushed myself really hard. I knew who I was, and I think that's helped me along the way. And now, I'm able to take pretty good care of myself mentally, and physically. I'm not completely out of shape.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, my brief experience with something like that, I got a chance to one of my first, I think it was the first time I spoke on a juvenile detention center. It was in Nebraska, and there was sort of a violent offender side and a nonviolent. And on the nonviolent side, there were kids there who had some behavioral health issues, but I think it was because of what was going on at home and maybe, some kind of acute mental illness and that kind of a deal that obviously went untreated. And the parents just dropped them off and left them there. And they were there for years. They had been there for years. And it was so heartbreaking. It was like these kids were not even given a chance, and not even were they put into a foster care system or anything like that. They were dropped off at a detention center. And it broke my heart. And it kind of like one of my takeaways was like, we've got to help even the forgotten parts of our society, the places where the undesirables live, as it were. So that was me. And then I'm so with you. Like, you got to take care of yourself before you take care of others. It's like that thing when you get on a plane, make sure your mask is inflated before you help somebody else. Because if you're going down, you're probably just going to take someone else with you. You're not going to be able to help them. So sort of a big piece of learning I've had to ascribe to over the years, because I was kind of Mick counselor on certain levels, in my past, and, was trying to help other people and wasn't helping myself, and running ragged and running thin and just not doing well. So do you first, then you could do others, man. I like the sentiment quite a bit. Taking kind of this lemon of some of the darker parts of society with trauma and families and kind of using it and turning it into lemonade to inform, a better Adam, I guess. That's pretty incredible that you're able to do that. All right, man, I want to switch gears for a moment, maybe a few moments, if I may. I don't know why I'm speaking in a British accent, but that's what happened. This is our quick fire round, and it's kind of like Jimmy Fallon moment or carpool karaoke without the car or the karaoke, but kind of an interview sort of a deal. Just kind of fun, no right or wrong answers. Just going to ask you some stuff. Are you down for it, man?
I always, absolutely. I like to end most things with humor. Good place to leave, any kind of relationship tie when you're on the phone, or, if you're not going to see somebody or talk to somebody for a while, you got to insert humor here.
Definitely. That's certainly my MO, man. That's how I deal with life. So I hope I can sprinkle that into this here show. Adam, what is your favorite word?
I can't say it. A 4-letter
Can you
one.
Spell it for us, please? All right. Does it start with an F?
Probably, yeah. It's pretty much the most universal word I can think of.
Yeah. It's like in baseball, you got your utility man, right? It's got so many uses. Our neighborhood-friendly F word is there right along with that.
Yeah, I can console people with that word. You can bring people down. You can lift them up. You can make them. You can make people sad. You can make them happy. It's pretty universal. And my 4-year-old now, my favorite word with him is probably stop.
Stop.
Getting
Stop
a little
climbing
carried
on
away.
things. Yeah, it's got a lot of energy, like his pops, probably. Do you mind what's your boy's name?
His name's Riker Clare.
Riker. Nice, dude. It's like a graphic novel superhero or something. I like that.
Sounds kind of
Riker Clare. It does sound kind of tough. And he's like 4, so he's like, he's got like a pack of cigarettes rolled up into his t-shirt and like, a greased up hair. It's stupid. Adam, what's your least favorite word, man?
Well, I suppose if the least one that I want to hear, or at least one I would want to say, I'd probably sorry. Sorry. It's one of the hardest words to say. It's an essential word, but it's probably my least favorite because that always means that there's something negative behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it makes sense, and it all depends on the delivery too. If you do have to say it, if you say it wrong, you're in deeper. You're in deeper than when you started. So there's some nuance to it too, I guess. Good move. I think you're the first one who said sorry on this show. So, Adam, if you had a superpower, what would it be? Anything you could think of. There are no limits. It doesn't have to just be flying and being invisible, although those are great options. You could turn yourself into a basket if you want.
I mean, Superman's really, he takes a pretty good, he's got a good grasp on powers, Superman does. If I had any, I would say I'd be able to predict the future.
We do a lot with that. You could make some real cash with that.
Oh yeah, I would be selfish in some ways. I'll have to admit I would be selfish, but I would also be very selfless.
Nice. You could accurately predict when it's time to get beachfront property in Nevada. When California kind of goes off to sea, as they've been predicting for 50 years. Nevada
has some really great legislature. If I don't know politically if you know much about it, but they have. I'm an avid. I hunt and I fish and I like to shoot guns. And Nevada has some pretty open laws where if you were to live in the West and you wanted to say, I wanted to live in Lake Tahoe, I may have looked at that place once or twice. I would probably live on the Nevada side.
You would, yes. If you're talking about the firearms situation, definitely. It's way more heavily regulated in California. This is the quickish fire round now, and that's okay. What do they have any sort of stipulations regarding, any sort of moderate regulation and anything? I thought you were going to go somewhere differently with that, and that's okay. You went where you went with it. Personally, I kind of like the Canadian, from what I know, the Canadian laws as far as firearms, just because of my work in suicide prevention. And, I'm not somebody who says you can't have guns. I just let's, we regulate cars. You can't drive on the sidewalk. So you probably don't need a bazooka. Obviously, I'm being a little extreme, but.
Nope, you don't need a bazooka. You're absolutely correct. I'm not crazy right on it at all. And I'm definitely not real left. I think that the right to bear arms was in the Constitution from the beginning. And I think that it is your responsibility as a gun owner to responsibly take care of your tools or whatever you want to call them. They need to be locked up appropriately. They need to be taken care of. Safety first. If you're doing anything outside of that, then there's where regulation should be coming in play. No, bazookas, class 3 weapons, anything big, major explosions. No, we don't need that stuff. But as firearms go, handhelds, I don't think we even need fully automatics. That stuff's, what do you need that for? But on the suicide prevention side, you with personal experience, myself with a lot of personal experience, not on my business side, on my personal side, we didn't get into any of that at all, but there's a lot of suicide that, I've experienced with amongst friends and family, and I've seen a lot of death to opioids. It's a really big issue in our country, but it hits home really close to me. I've lost a lot of friends over the years. So, and when I say a lot, I mean probably can't count them on my fingers.
Dude, I'm very sorry for your losses. I wasn't aware of that. And on just the suicide piece,
side, it is serious business, and you do some real serious work, and it's pretty neat to see the stuff you do. And the reason that I actually contacted you initially was because somebody told me that, because I was looking for some speakers to come to our town, and somebody said, "Hey, Josh Riverdahl has been here before, and he was amazing." That's when I first initially contacted you.
Right on, man. Yeah.
All right, what else you got?
Oh, I don't know.
You got any other ones?
Well, we swirl downward, but that's okay. I was also going to say one more thing on the gun thing. I think one of the, if I were to regulate it, I would just give everybody a musket, as, right to bear arms, like it was written in the days of the musket. That's probably the comedian's smart ass solution to all of this. Just give everybody a damn musket. We'll walk 10 paces. You got beef. We'll be fine. It'll take you a while. You got to think about it. So anyway, that's my stupid smartass regulation deal. All right, back to it.
Obama was the best gun salesman in our lifetime.
That's right. I remember that. Everything got
really
boosted when he first got elected.
And even how he was approaching it, I don't know if that was was sincere on the political side of we want to deregulate, or it was on a financial side, and this is just whatever, or if it was on a financial side where he was able to get kickback because gun sales, that money, a percentage of that money goes into a big pot. And that pot grew to like billions of dollars. And that really is what supports. This is a whole nother track. See, that's super tangential, but that's really what supports conservation in the United States.
Didn't know that. It's funny. It's interesting. Like, I'll go on a little tangent, and I might be a little inaccurate on this, but it's funny how you can mix things that have the lottery, which, gambling, and some people have issues, and some conservative religious organizations are very anti-lottery, but yet it supports education. And the prison system in New York, I think most prison systems, not all of them, but a lot of them in the U.S. are privately owned, and they get public contracts, right? So like
it's $1 billion
they're for-profit entities. Yeah. So the teachers' pension fund in New York City is partly invested in the state prison system, oddly enough. And so there's this like interesting, weird kind of joining of two things that education on some level should probably keep people out of prison, but then they're investing in it, hoping that like they'll get good returns because there's more prison. It's just really strange. So,
or do they just have that firsthand knowledge to know that no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you educate, or how, I guess, deeply you try to educate, however you want to say it, you're going to have those bad apples, going to be people that screw up, inevitably. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're just more educated than the rest of us because that's what they're investing in.
Maybe. You're right. And then we come back to trauma-informed care. Because we've had that in schools. We might not have as many dropouts. We might have students who like to show up or who will show up, will be more encouraged, painting with broad strokes, but we win in a full circle.
Maybe you hold teachers accountable for not doing their job.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea. All right, man. I'm bringing us back on track, and I'm going to get real serious with you. Not really. What is your spirit animal, Adam? What is your spirit animal? Or what is your spirit animal? It could be anybody or anything, like, I don't know,
it's a bear.
Justice John Roberts or Tony the Tiger or whatever you want. Spirit animal.
Yeah, it's a bear.
Nice. For what reason or reasons?
I don't know. I feel like on an unspoken level, that's it. And in my time in the woods, spending time in the forest, I've seen a lot of bear. I've seen a lot of bear while I was hunting bear. And I've never pulled the trigger. I've watched them. I enjoyed their beauty, and I didn't harvest.
Wow.
I don't know. There's a different appreciation. Yeah.
Couldn't hurt one of your own, as it were.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really know, on what level it is. I just always felt this connection to they're family oriented. They protect their family. They're a social animal to a point, but they can be very solo to a point. They climb trees, they're an herbivore. They pretty much just survive. They hunt, they fish, they eat berries. So they're pretty neat.
That sounds a lot like you.
For people that never really thought about a bear, if you really look at what a bear is and how it lives and its sort of social structure, and they're a pretty amazing animal.
Right on, man. I have a new appreciation for all things bear, polar, grizzly, the guys in West Hollywood. If you know that bear reference, ha ha ha. So if this is the last one in this, I guess we'll call it the sluggish fire round. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you as you enter or as you get kicked out?
It have something to do with if I was going in, it'd be probably what the hell are you doing here? And on your way out, I knew it wouldn't last long.
God has a sense of humor. Rad, man. That was fun, man. We definitely took lots of tangents, but I'm digging it, man. That's kind of how I roll anyway. So Adam, man, what does the future hold, man? For you, business, whatever you want to share, life, personal life, like maybe the next 6 months or something. Like what's going down? What's going to happen? What do you see as you predict the future?
6 months is going to probably roll pretty slow, nothing major. I'm going to continue be out in the community and doing a lot of stuff with this company. And, you know, I'll be doing a lot of budgeting and numbers and things too. You know what I mean? I do have a desk job, and moving down the road a little ways, you know, I'd like to reach out to a lot more people, and eventually probably finish up on the East Coast and probably head to the mountains at some point. Northern Idaho.
That'd be rad, man.
Calls my name.
Yeah.
Calls my name.
Really?
Yeah, I like it up
Be
there.
a lot of fun.
But I'm in no hurry.
Yeah. And you got a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
You got a little one. So, if folks want to get in touch with you on any level, mental health or outdoorsy stuff, or I don't know, for whatever reason, is there a good way to do that? And if so, what would that be?
Yeah, I think the best route right now is info, INFO, at FWMWA.org. And that's info at Forest Warren Mental Wellness Association.
Cool, man. Well, this has been really great. It's been really informative. Learned a bit about some bears and about you, more importantly, and just kind of what makes you. I did ask. Yeah, I got. That's what I do. I'm the question asking guy. But we're gonna have some. I'm gonna get some stuff in the show notes. I'm gonna go back through this episode a couple times, man, because there was some real gold nuggets that I came away with, and I want to make sure that other people kind of grab onto that too, man. So just want to give you a big thanks for taking some time out of your day, out of your desk job to hang out and do this.
Yeah, thank
really
you.
Cool. You've been listening to the I'm Possible Project show with Joshua Rivedal and guest Adam McNeill. I love sharing stories on how to turn impossible into I'm possible. If you want more inspirational stories, our second and third books are available right now. Changing Minds, Breaking Stigma, Achieving the Impossible, as well as Lemonade Stand. Both contain powerful stories of overcoming tremendous odds. When life gives you lemons, squeeze, add sugar, and pick up a copy of the I'm Possible Project. That's IAMPossibleProject.com/2/TWO or IAMPossibleProject.com/lemonade. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're more than a community. You're part of the I'm Possible family. Until next time, sending you lots of love.